The camp shut down November 21st of 1945. It had been open for more than 3.5 years, and it's very expensive to house it however shoddily and feed however badly 120,000 people across the entire country. The government wanted to try to regain some of those costs. So the War Assets Administration came to Manzanar. The guy who was in charge here was the same guy who'd been in charge of the camp, Ralph Merritt. And his job was to sell off the materials here, all of the buildings, as much as they could. And if you were a veteran returning from World War II and facing this housing shortage, you could buy one of these barracks for $333.13. A lot of people took advantage of that, and these buildings ended up all over this valley, to the north, to the south, in the little towns around here.
This building actually was purchased in the 90s, and as it turns out, it is a full barrack from Manzanar. I can only guess how cold it must have been for the families who lived here when it was on Manzanar. It was cold until we did the restructuring of things and added a lot of insulation and, used the modern standards to stay warm in the building. It was, quote unquote, a Manzanar house that had been moved from Manzanar onto this property, and there were 2 other structures as well on the property. It didn't really have much meaning to me. I'm humbled now to think of how much I didn't think about the history of these buildings. There was the original linoleum, and when we pulled that up, there was newspaper that was dated from the 40s. And as historical and meaningful that would be, as a mom, and I saw this newspaper and it had mold all over it, my reaction was, oh my God, we've got to pull this up. It made connections as to what people used with this original home for insulation. I did lose the house, to a fire back in 2006. And when the demolishing was done, the first stage of it was to basically take everything down and just put it in a big pile in the center of the lot where the house had been. And that night, I had a dream. And in that dream, there was a man that came out of the pile. And my sense was he was part of that building, one of the original occupant, perhaps. I don't know. But it was like he came out of that pile as a spirit. And there was this freeing sensation for him and for myself. That brought a connection that I had never had before. It was no longer just a mind thing. Oh, yes, I lived in the Manzanar house. But it was a heart connection, and it felt very real. And so as a result of that, I felt I wanted to do something for this spirit, this man. And someone had suggested that I go to the pilgrimage and, just make an offering.